inspect one's beliefs a little bit and to look at one's ideas and concepts of things, and maybe it's time to revise them.
Well, I can say this, Charles. If I would have been born back in the Egyptian times or before that, and let's say that we were visited on a regular basis and maybe helped out, and maybe a little bit of breeding and all that from an alien race coming here, maybe to, like I said earlier, to mine our planet of, of gold or silver or whatever it needed. They would need slaves. They would need workers. And what would those people, yes, they would look up to them. I mean, such a superior race, humans would look at them as gods.
Right. Well, that's what they did with Buddha. Buddha still, in 3/4 of the world was civilized by Buddha, and today you'll find nothing but temples and huge statues of him, and they still consider him a god, and he was always saying that he was only a man. But they saw him as a god because of what he was able to do. He was able to be free of, what did he teach? What did he teach man at that time? He said that you can be free of the birth-death cycle, which repeats and repeats and repeats. And this was news. This was news 2,500 years ago, and it was great news. But even today, he's still revered as a god. You follow? He wasn't a god. He was a man.
Well, he was something. Was he maybe a man, or maybe was he an alien?
Well, I'm going to leave that up to our listeners to decide. I'm not going to try and force my idea on anybody, but I would say he was a man. I would say he was we're all divinities of a sort. We are all entities with divine abilities. We may not use our abilities for one reason or another. Usually it's for fear of hurting others. In other words, if you're going to be powerful, you have to be responsible for that power, right? Well, there's many people who have transgressed, and they don't want to transgress again, so they'll limit their powers. But essentially, we are divinities. You remember the statement in the Bible that says that we are God's children, right?
Oh, yes.
Well, guess what? Children eventually have to grow up. And what do they become? If they grow up correctly,
that's the magic word.
I'll leave that open.
Yeah.
I'll leave it open for you to decide what the answer is. But it's pretty obvious to me. We're talking about the ability to be free, to be responsible, and to be free, and to be aware of one's environment and other people at all times. If you can do that, and you can act with the concept of how the action is going to affect more than just myself or a few people, then I'm probably not limited to how much power I can have. If I have judgment of how the power is going to be released and used, I don't believe there's any limit to how much power I can have.
Well, I agree and disagree, but that's just my opinion here.
Let's talk about slaves one more time. You're right about that. And as I was saying, Enki was given the title of Lord of Earth. He was given all the southern regions to govern, and what he was expected to do was to run the mines to dig out the gold and the bauxite and other valuable minerals, and of course ship them back or whatever, to make their stay commercially successful. To do that, he asked that Enlil and his sister, I think it's Ngursad, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's one of those difficult ones to pronounce, create a working man, a man that could work in the mines and labor 18, 20 hours a day. Seriously. This is also from one of Sitchin's books, but I've also read about this in other places. And so a man was created probably from a primate. In other words, they knew how to deal with or adjust DNA, and in their laboratories at that time, they were able to make a man that was sentient, that was more of a sentient being than an animal, and they had it rapidly reproduce and work the minds. And now, if you take this one step further, you look at today's civilization, you see that there's quite a bit of, well, I wouldn't say as much as it has been in the past, but there's quite a bit of racism, or still a bit of looking down on the African American culture. And it's for a very good reason. They were slaves from the very beginning. They were made to work, and work 7 days a week, 18, 19, 20 hours a day, for the benefit of the visitors, for the aliens, or the, as we call them, the visitors from outer space. And I can see a direct relationship myself. Okay?
Okay. Well,
slavery took a long time to get rid of it, but the idea is still ongoing. It's kind of interwoven in our society. We still have a problem with white slave trade, and we have a problem with it's the same mentality, getting children to trafficking, trafficking in human lives. It's the same idea. It's using bodies, and not considering that there's beings, that there's divinities associated with the bodies, but just using the bodies as a commodity. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That kind of slavery.
Yeah, I know they had a. Now, my feeling is, boy, I'm stuttering here, which I normally don't do. I have a funny feeling that they bred us humanoids on this planet to work the mines, to work whatever it had to be done, for they could basically take our minerals, our planet, and rob it of its resources. And whatever they created in a humanoid to do that, they were expandable. They didn't care if they survived or not. And I think they did. It was a big jump from going back to prehistoric man to, in a short period of time, to a more modern man. And I think something with DNA or whatever they'd done, they kind of did something to create a workforce. And that's where your slaves came from.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, wouldn't you, if you were a conquering... We talked about this, I think, last time, or with Michael, on my broadcast with them. What did the Spanish conquistadors do when they arrived? Well, they got the gold. And they suppressed the civilization. They murdered and massacred people by the tens of thousands. So it's just like it's an ongoing thing.
And what they didn't murder, they died off from diseases that they brought over with them.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
They killed off thousands and thousands, and they actually, killed a run of with the Incas and some other of the.
Yeah.
Now
I don't want to lead people to believe that every single Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian was an evil person, or any of the gods that were acquainted with those civilizations, because we talked about this before. You've got throughout the universe, and there are now some more than 3,000 planets, alien planets that have been identified by astronomers and scientists as having possibly have life, and probably do have life on them in our own galaxy. But throughout the universe, you've got the idea that there's a segment of beings that really don't give a damn about anybody else, like you were saying. And then they're the ones that are more socially oriented. There's a tiny percentage that they're either the warriors, or they're the killers, or they're the who were the ones in Star Trek, the bad guys?
The Klingons.
Klingons, yeah, right. There's always the bad guys that they just want to to chew up or gobble up, like Russia. There you go. Russia's a current example where for over 100 years they were just gobbling up other countries, for their resources. There's that kind of mentality. So I just want to get that out there, that not all of these gods were bad. Marduk was bad because he started a nuclear war to, put himself first above all other gods. And by the way, he was very smart. When he became the king of the mountain, he still allowed the other gods to live. He didn't try and knock them out. He just subjected them to his will, and they all fell in line and praised him as the leader. So he was smart in that respect. But he's the one that started, and he was the bad guy as far as I'm concerned.
Well, one thing I will say, that any advanced civilization visiting Earth, okay, you have to look at it like two ways. One is they're going to be the warm and fuzzy and give off orbs, which I always hear on my show when people talk like about grays and stuff like that. Or they're going to be the opposite. And you know what? With something that's so far advanced than us, okay, we're like babies yet, infants yet.
Yeah.
And you take a civilization maybe is so far advanced from us, they don't look at us as humans. They don't look at us any more than when we go out and tag cattle, or we tag fish, or we go out and tag wildlife just to see how it exists and what it does. They might just look at us as nothing more than how we look at it in an insect crawling on the ground. So they might not have any compassion at all, especially towards humans. And people got to understand that. Not every alien that would ever come to this planet, if there is aliens, are going to be lovable, likable creatures and trying to protect Earth. It could be totally the opposite. And people have to realize that. It could be 180 degrees opposite what a lot of people talk about.
Yeah. I think it's real to most people that even in the workplace, you've got the guys who are heads to the grindstone, who work and keep their noses clean and do their job, and then there are those that are goof-offs, and there are those guys who tend to be oppressive. It's the same throughout the universe. I mean, wherever you're going to go, whatever there's life, there's going to be that kind of mix, that kind of relationship. But definitely favors the good intentioned aliens. I would say there's a vastly greater number of them. I like to say, if there are, I'll let that be provisional until one beats one, I suppose. But
seriously,
I think totally.
Okay, I always say this. Yeah. Okay, look what happened with Hitler, Stalin, and all those people on our own planet. Okay, our own civilization. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to get the point across. I get on this show, I get guests on. It'll say that all these, and they're only dreaming, or they're reading other propaganda on the internet. All I can say is, what we've done to our own planet, okay, tells me that a civilization out there could be looking at us to destroy us the same way that Hitler wanted to destroy Russia and Stalin wanted to take control, of other countries the same way. There can be planets out there, warriors.
Bad apples.
It want to conquer, take over, and extort planets for their minerals and whatever they have.
And you know why? And Gary, you know why? You know why they do that? Because they don't know how to manage. They don't know how to manage properly people. They don't see them as beings. They don't see them as any divinities. They just see them as, like Marduk or like Enki. They're just animals. That's why. They see them as animals. So you can do anything you want to an animal. Starve it, kill it, drown it. Doesn't matter. It's an animal. That's why.
That's how they probably look at us. I hate to say it. And that's what kind of alarms me, like when I get certain guests on the show, that they're so positive that these aliens or whatever is out there, and the ones in the past or whatever, they give off orbs and they're here to protect the Earth. If they were here to protect Earth, do you think Antarctica would be melting like it is? Our Earth changes that's going on right now. Do you think we would have been destroying ourselves in wars since the beginning? They would have stepped up and helped
Yeah.
us and said, "Hey, no more war." No, they had the